Welcome CA Debayan Patra ji, our past chairman. How are
गुड
you, Debayan sir?
इवनिंग क्या खबर
Good evening, एकदम बढ़िया. How are you, Gopal भैया?
Hello. Amit, good.
Okay. Shall we start the session?
yes I think you can give the initial introduction and all those things and we
Okay.
can proceed yes
So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Charcha, another technical session for the day. And today we have a very insightful session planned on the understanding of the overview of the RERA in the state of West Bengal. To start up the session, I will ask our past chairman, Debayan Patraji, to address our attendees as well as the speaker of the day, CA Gopal Krishna Lodha ji. Over to you, sir, Debayan Patraji.
so thank you very much Amit Agarwal ji and a very good evening to you and of course the speaker of the day Gopal ji who is an expert in RERA especially in West Bengal and of course all the participants who have joined and I must also thank the EIRC for requesting me to give this special address although I must mention that I did not know why I have been asked to give this special address because I am not even a novice in RERA. However, I must mention that the profession is actually at a crossroad and opportunities are many, but then many of us have a traditional mind setup which actually push us towards being in the same areas where we have been for the last many years and we are actually closing our eyes on the opportunities that is there and whenever we talk about technology many of us think that we are saying that technology is going to overtake us as a profession but it is not so whenever we talk about technology we want to mean that technology can actually provide such a platform that it can make your task very easy and if you embrace technology you are actually going to help yourself help your team and you can grow very fast since we are also talking about RERA I must mention that this is one kind of an opportunity that has actually uh, created see these days we are also seeing in the banners of the projects the RERA registration numbers are given, right? So these are the changes that happen with time. There is a huge demand for CAs in the real estate sector, particularly for compliance, audit, and financial management because of the RERA now. And Gopalji would be taking us through all of those things. He is an expert, and I'm sure that those of you who have joined to know about the nuances of the RERA in West Bengal will be benefited out of that. Uh, when I asked the chairman, why have I been asked to give this special address? He said, यार तुम थोड़ा सा profession का बात कर देना. Fine, I have done that. But I would also like to add that the regional council is going to hold its 50th regional conference this year. And that is why the chairman has taken this initiative of 50 these kind of online sessions where 50 experts will be coming deliberating on 50 different topics and the chairman would be calling 50 people for a special address. So I think in this special address, I should also talk about this 50th regional conference. So it will be held in the month of November, 21st and 22nd November at Bishop Bangla. I think it's a landmark achievement that the EIRC is going to achieve it being the 50th regional conference. So, and I'm sure that it will be a platform for all of us where we can network. And of course, we will be learning about AI, more of technology, and more of the new opportunities that is coming our way in the profession. So with this note, I hand it over back to the special coordinator of the day, C. Amit Agarwal, who also is a speaker on AI.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your kind word and introducing the whole subject as well as the technical session of the day. As far as your invitation is concerned for the special addressee, we all love to be part of this session to be addressed by the past chairman of EIRC, whether it's you or any or so that they can evaluate their view and all those things in the particular initiative taken by the EIRC. So let's come to the topic of the day. To guide us through on this important topic, we have with us CA Gopal Krishna Lodha ji. Mr. Lodha is a chartered accountant and a company secretary with significant expertise in the real estate law. He is also a founder of RERASathi.com with his primary area of focus being RERA. Mr. Lodha possesses an in-depth understanding of real estate laws and has been instrumental in smooth implementation of RERA across the state. He has worked closely with the real estate developers in this area. Before embarking on his entrepreneurial journey, Mr. Lodha has experience working with the prominent organizations such as Jindal Steel Power and Limited as well as Future India Limited. We are honored to have Mr. Lodha with us to share his knowledge and insights on data in West Bengal. Let us give him a warm welcome. Over to you, CA Gopal Krishna Lodha ji.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Amit, for giving this introduction. Devanda, thank you. You have always been a great support right from the time you have been the chairperson of EIRC. You have been a great support whenever I approached you for something. I have got a positive response. Thank you, EIRC, for doing this session. Thanks to special thanks to Chairman EIRC, who has planned this Golden Charcha. A 1 hour of seminar helps us to understand a lot of things about one particular topic, or at least even if not in detail, but we can have an overview of what exactly things are going around. So, RERA is, with regard to RERA, I must say RERA is new to the state of West Bengal, comparatively new to the state of West Bengal. What actually has happened and how did RERA being implemented in the state of West Bengal? This is the first thing I think we should always know. What happened was way back when the 21st century started, the government felt that the real estate sector need to be regulated. There must be some authority who regulates the real estate sector. The reason being that the government wanted to bring in the transparency in the real estate sector, which was lacking in the year or in the beginning of the 21st century. And they wanted a stronger control on the sector, which was growing exponentially. With this intent, it was thought that there must be a proper authority who is specific to the sector, and this sector needs to be regulated by that authority. In search of this, the government came up with a new act in the year 2016, and it was called as the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act 2016. The government passed this act in the year 2016, and it was told to every states and the union territories that this is the act which need to be followed by all the states, and all the states will have their own rights to make rules so as for the implementation of this real estate act. Majority of the states and union territories did so, and they started the process of implementation of RERA. But what happened was that this act was not implemented in our state, state of West Bengal, till 2021 and particularly 2023. I'll say why I'm saying 2021 and 2023, that I'll discuss in the later part of my address. So what happened is in 2016, this act, when it was implemented throughout the country, this was not implemented in the state of West Bengal. Rather, on June 2018, there was a so-called parallel act on the same topic, that is regulating the real estate, which was implemented in the state of West Bengal, called as West Bengal Housing Industry Regulation Act. And they started functioning with June 2018. The requirement or the act which was passed by the state legislature and the rules which were made were similar to the Central Act of Real Estate Regulation and Development Act. This act started the process of project registration in the state of West Bengal, agent registration in the state of West Bengal, till and it continued till 2021. But what has happened in this case was this act was always challenged. The forums, the collective bias forum, they challenged the constitutional validity of this act on the ground that since there is a RERA Act, which is a central act on the same matter, the implementation of the similar act or a parallel act by the state legislature is violation of the constitution. Secondly, they also pointed out in this that the act which have been implemented in the state of West Bengal has diluted version to control the real estate. Because there are significant deviations from what the central acts are and what the state is implementing as the real estate regulation and the Real Estate Regulation Act, West Bengal Real Estate Regulation, Housing Industry Regulation Act. Post this, on 4th May 2021, the Supreme Court gave a verdict that the act which is being implemented in the state of West Bengal is, they scrapped off this act and said that this act is no more applicable. And then they said that the state of West Bengal is required to implement RERA at the earliest. But at the time, then they strike down the WB-HERA Act. They said that all the registrations and sanctions granted under RERA will continue to be valid. So this was one of the most important line of the entire judgment of scrapping out or uh, scrapping out of the Act HERA, in which the Supreme Court categorically said, I repeat my sentence, that the registrations and sanctions approved under HERA will continue and they will continue as they have been approved. So what happened is 4th May 2021, the RERA was struck down by the Honorable Supreme Court and the process of implementation of RERA started in the state of West Bengal. On 27-29 July, the West Bengal notified the RERA rules. One of the best feature of the entire act which the central has specified that the entire process under the RERA Act should be online. But what has happened in the state, once on 29 July, the act was notified, the act was notified, the rules were notified, the act was implemented. The online portal of the RERA authority did not start. On 31st January 2023, the online portal of the RERA authority started, and that is the date from which the state of West Bengal has the complete RERA implemented in the state of West Bengal. So if we on a layman language talk of that, this is 31st January 2023. From 31st January 2023, the state of West Bengal has fully implemented RERA law in the state of West Bengal. Now, who are the stakeholders of the RERA Act? There are various stakeholders of the RERA Act, but the most important stakeholders are three when it comes to the implementation of RERA Act. First is the promoter of a project. Second is the agents. And third is the allottees of the project or buyer of the project. This act says that this act is applicable as on 31st January 2023. The act said that if there is a project which is in developed in the state of West Bengal having an area of land, so this act is applicable to the promoters who develop the project in the state of West Bengal and their area of land is more than 500 square meter or number of unit is more than 8, then they need to register their project in the state of they need to register their project with the West Bengal Real Estate Regulatory Authority. So the act is applicable to all the projects happening in the state of West Bengal whose area of land is more than 500 square meter or the number of apartment buildings are more than 8. This was the intent with which the RERA started in the state of West Bengal. But soon, after 4 months or rather 5 months of the implementation of the RERA Act, the government of West Bengal reduced the limit of this application of RERA Act, and it said that RERA Act is applicable to all the projects in the state of West Bengal whose area of land is more than 200 square meter or number of units are more than 6. So what basically happened is the limit of 500 square meter which was there first was now reduced to 200 square meter, and the number of units which was 8 previously was now reduced to 6. So we can say that effectively when you see at the real estate projects throughout the state, my personal belief is that a project with less than 3 kata does not stand to be a viable project. So particularly, I'll say that all the projects, to my understanding, which is being developed in the state of West Bengal comes within the ambit of RERA. And all the promoters who are developing the project in the state of West Bengal are required to register their project with the WB RERA authority. This is the first criteria wherein you come with the connect with the RERA is the registration requirement. So any promoter who is doing a project and satisfying the criteria need to submit this document to the RERA authority. Now the best part is the entire process of registration under RERA is online. It is completely online process of registration and we need to submit all the documents online to the RERA authority. They check the documents which are available or which are submitted by the authority, and if there's any query, they send you the query. You need to reply to them. And once they are satisfied with the documentation of the projects, they approve your project and you get a valid RERA number, valid RERA number, which is set as the RERA registration number of the project. Now, for the application before the authority, there are certain sets of documents which you need to submit. Like for any project, you need to submit the KYC of the promoter. The KYC details say PAN card of the promoter, details and photographs of the partners or directors of the promoter company, promoter partnership firm. They need to submit the sanction plan, the various approval, like the projects needs approvals from airport authorities of India, fire clearances, environmental clearances. All these approvals need to be taken and all these approvals need to be submitted before the RERA authority. Along with this, RERA also asks you what is the type of the project. Is it a residential project or a commercial project? This also need to be submitted. There are many other requirements, like there are few affidavits as prescribed by RERA which are required to be submitted to the RERA authorities. If you submit करना पड़ता है आपको. And along with this, you need to pay a fees at the time of submission, which is calculated as. So the fees has been, the government fees for the RERA registration stands as, if I take you through the, so this is the rate at which the government fees need to be paid. Hope my screen is clear. Someone, if you can tell that screen is clear or not, the PPT is clear or not?
Yes, yes, it's clear.
Yes. Okay. So the fees for the project registration in the state of West Bengal is for the residential project developed in an area of land less than 1000 square meter, it is 10 rupees per square meter. And if it is more than 1000 square meter of land, then it is 20 rupees per square meter. For the commercial project, it is 50 rupees per square meter. And if the area of land is more than 1000 square meter, it is 100 rupees per square meter of the land, 100 rupees per square meter. This is the government fees which need to be paid at the time of registration. Now, why this registration is required? Is it compulsory for the promoter? Yes. What Act says that a promoter cannot advertise A promoter cannot sell. A promoter cannot invite the person to book the apartment or to uh, a promoter cannot uh, take money from the uh, prospective buyers till the time the project is registered with the RERA number or the project is registered with the RERA authorities. So, a project which is being developed and is intended for sell to the consumers first need to register itself with the RERA authorities, and only then they can advertise the project in any mode and they can take advances or money from the allottees. So registration is mandatory before you start selling of the projects to the RERA, to the allottees. After this, once your project is registered with the RERA and when you start advertising your project, because you are allowed to advertise post registration, the RERA mandates that this RERA number and the website of the authority. There are two things: the RERA number and the website of the authority. These two things has to be mentioned at all the places wherein you are making the advertisement. So the act says that in case the promoter advertises or advertise karta hai, so there is a guideline that this advertisement be it any mode, physical mode ho, digital mode ho, any mode, this needs to contain two things. First is the RERA number of the project and second the RERA website address of the authority, so that it is very easy for a prospective buyer to go and check your details at the RERA portal and then he can plan about buying the property with you. Second thing, what is important here is post registration, once you have done the advertisement, you will start selling the project. Once you sell the project, start selling the project, RERA again. So before I get into the selling of the project and other things, I must tell you that this act, whenever we think of the RERA Act, the RERA Act had the main intent that there are three things basically which is very important. First, it was for the purpose of regulation of real estate sector, that the sector needs to be regulated. Second, it wanted to bring in transparency, because what was happening before that in a real estate transaction, there was lack of transparency between the two major stakeholders, that is a promoter and the allottee. इन दोनों के बीच में बहुत ज्यादा गैप होते थे, कम्युनिकेशंस नहीं क्लियर होते थे, देयर वाज नो क्लैरिटी ऑफ थॉट. इस कारण से द गवर्नमेंट ब्रॉट इन द रेरा एक्ट. सो द एक्ट ऑलवेज ट्राइज to provide, or act has tried to provide, and act has rather provided various provisions and sections in the act which tries to bring in the transparency between the real estate promoter and real estate buyer. अब होता क्या है, जैसे आप प्रोजेक्ट को रजिस्ट्रेशन कर लेते हैं और रजिस्ट्रेशन के सारे डॉक्यूमेंट सबमिट करते हैं, ये सारे डॉक्यूमेंट पब्लिकली अवेलेबल है. आपके सारे डॉक्यूमेंट कोई भी आदमी किसी भी तरीका से जाके चेक कर सकता है. दिस डॉक्यूमेंट्स आर नॉट केप्ट हाइड एंड सीक. ऑल दिस डॉक्यूमेंट विच यू सबमिट आर अवेलेबल ऑन दी रेरा पोर्टल. आप कोई प्रोजेक्ट लेने जाते हैं, खरीदने जाते हैं, आप कोई प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में देखना चाहते हैं, तो आप जाते हैं रेरा पोर्टल पे, वहां पे चेक करते हैं और चेक करके आप एक पूरा डिटेल सैंक्शन प्लान है, कंप्लीशन डेट है, उस प्रोजेक्ट का फाइनेंशियल क्या है, उस प्रोमोटर का हालचाल क्या है, ये सारी चीजें वहां मेंशन रहती है. सो व्हाट हैज हैपेंड इज bringing in RERA has brought in this transparency which was not available in the pre-RERA regime. अब इसके बाद क्या होता है, जैसे आप कोई प्रोजेक्ट का एडवर्टीजमेंट देखते हैं, अगेन द ट्रांसपेरेंसी हैज बीन ब्रॉट इन. हाउ दैट द रेरा नंबर इज मेंशन्ड. सो आप इवन इफ यू आर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ, आप आराम से उस वेबसाइट के एड्रेस पर लिंक करके उस रेरा नंबर से उस प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में जान सकते हैं. And then you plan to buy the project, आप अपना डिसीजन ले सकते हो. So you are more aware of, buyers are made more aware of what they are buying, because there is substantial amount which a person invests in the real estate market. Previously it was told that a person buys the homes once in their lifetime, and a lot of huge savings are being spent. So this was also the reason that the government wanted कि एक regulator ऐसा होना चाहिए जो सेक्टर को रेगुलेट करे. Although this pattern has changed now, that previously people used to buy a house in their lifetime, now if you look at the current generation, there are two three house properties which are brought in over the lifespan of an individual. But looking at the broader picture, this requires a broader investment, and therefore the government wanted to bring in अ ट्रांसपेरेंसी एंड द क्लैरिटी कि भाई ये ट्रांसपेरेंसी और क्लैरिटी लाया जाए रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर में। अब क्या होता है, आपने प्रोजेक्ट को रजिस्ट्रेशन करा लिया, एडवर्टीजमेंट कर दिया, पैसा आना चालू होता है, अलॉटिस से पैसा आता है। रेरा क्या बोलता है? रेरा इसमें बताता है कि एक प्रमोटर, अ प्रमोटर कैन नॉट एक्सेप्ट मोर देन 10% ऑफ द अमाउंट or cost of the flat from the allottees without entering into an agreement for sale and registering the agreement for sale with the competent authority. सो पहले क्या होता था हेरा या हेरा के पहले लोग 20-20%, 30-30% पैसा ले लेते थे। एग्रीमेंट कहीं साइन होता था, एग्रीमेंट लटकता था, एग्रीमेंट साइन नहीं भी होता था। But post coming RERA into picture, what has happened is it has become mandatory for a promoter कि आप अगर 10% से ज्यादा पैसा, कॉस्ट 100 रुपया अगर फ्लैट का है, 10 रुपए से ज्यादा फ्लैट का पैसा लेना चाहते हो, तो पहला कंडीशन है कि आपको रेरा एग्रीमेंट में एंटर करना है। एग्रीमेंट में एंटर करना है अलॉटी के साथ, और एग्रीमेंट में एंटर करने के बाद सेकंड सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट क्या है कि उस एग्रीमेंट को गवर्नमेंट, जो गवर्नमेंट की रजिस्ट्रार है, रजिस्टर अथॉरिटी, उसके साथ रजिस्टर भी करना है। सो दिस ब्रिंग्स इन अ ट्रांसपेरेंसी कि भाई एक डॉक्यूमेंट आपने बनाया, सारे टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस लगा, और वो रजिस्ट्रेशन भी हो गया, ताकि उस रजिस्ट्रेशन के डॉक्यूमेंट्स को या कोई भी तरीका से कोई छेड़छाड़ नहीं हो सके एग्रीमेंट के साथ। तो गवर्नमेंट हैज ट्राइड टू ब्रिंग इन कि, और सेकंड क्या होता है कि दिस गिव्स मोर कॉन्फिडेंस टू द बायर ऑल्सो कि भाई मैं 10% से ज्यादा पैसा नहीं दूंगा जब तक आप एग्रीमेंट फॉर सेल इंटर नहीं करते, और एग्रीमेंट फॉर सेल को इंटर करने के बाद आप उसका रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं कराते, मैं आपको 10% से ज्यादा पैसा नहीं दूंगा। ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है। अब होता है क्या सर, पहले हमने रजिस्ट्रेशन किया, एडवर्टीजमेंट किया, पैसा आ गया। अब पहले क्या होता था, हीरा आने से पहले दिस वॉज द रियल एस्टेट इंडस्ट्री का नॉर्मल ट्रेंड था कि the money of one project was being used in the various project, and at times it was seen that कि एक प्रोमोटर ने एक प्रोजेक्ट का पैसा कहीं दूसरे प्रोजेक्ट में लगाया, और इसी प्रोजेक्ट का प्रोजेक्ट रुक जाता था, एंड डेवलपमेंट वाज नॉट बीइंग डन इन द टाइमली मैनर। इन चीजों को कंट्रोल करने के लिए रेरा ने क्या बोला कि नहीं देखो भाई, उन्होंने रेरा ने एक सेक्शन स्पेसिफाई किया, बोला सेक्शन 42 LD, इसमें आ जाता है। वो क्या बोलता है कि आप जितना भी पैसा अलॉटी से लो, उसका 70% पैसा एक आपको सेपरेट बैंक अकाउंट में रख देना है, और उस 70% पैसा को आप यूज कर सकते हैं सिर्फ दो पर्पज से। एक है कॉस्ट ऑफ लैंड, और सेकंड है कॉस्ट ऑफ कंस्ट्रक्शन। सो रेरा हर चीज को धीरे धीरे कंट्रोल करना चाहता है। सबसे पहले वो प्रोजेक्ट के डॉक्यूमेंट्स को आपको दे रहा है, फिर आपको एडवर्टीजमेंट्स में डिटेल दे रहा है, थर्ड आपको बता रहा है कि भाई एडवर्टीजमेंट्स के बाद आप कितना टका दे सकते हैं एग्रीमेंट के बाद, और आपका पैसा जो आप प्रमोटर को दे रहे हैं वो भी प्रमोटर कैसे यूज कर सकता है, उसका गाइडलाइन है कि वो कॉस्ट ऑफ लैंड, माने उस प्रोजेक्ट के कॉस्ट ऑफ लैंड के लिए यूज कर सकता है, जो कि शायद वो इनकर कर चुका होगा, उसका पैसा वो निकाल सकता है। और सेकंड, जो खर्चा वो आपके प्रोजेक्ट को, आपका पैसा जो ले रहा है वो आपके प्रोजेक्ट में जो खर्चा कंस्ट्रक्शन में कर रहा है, वो उसी पैसा को यूज कर सकता है फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ withdrawal from the 70% account. So RERA is trying to bring in the effective utilization of fund so that प्रोजेक्ट का पैसा प्रोजेक्ट में लगे, और प्रोजेक्ट टाइमली डिलीवर करके अलॉटीज को हैंड ओवर कर दे। इस तरीका से रेरा एक बेनिफिशियल लेजिस्लेशन है फॉर द रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर, एंड स्पेसिफिकली अगर मैं कुछ इसको ऐड करूं तो इट गिव्स एडिशनल एडवांटेज टू द बायर्स, दे आर मोर अवेयर अबाउट द थिंग्स। अब क्या है कि अब होता क्या है, जब आप प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट में ऐसा लेते हैं, तो आप कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट को एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं, होता है ऐसा कि 100% पैसा, यदि मैं आपको एग्जांपल लूं कि अलॉटी से जो पैसा आता है उसको बैंक तीन भाग में डिवाइड करती है। जब आप जाते हैं रेरा अकाउंट खोलने, तो वो एक प्रोजेक्ट का तीन अकाउंट खोलता है, से अकाउंट ए, अकाउंट बी, अकाउंट सी। अब इसमें होता क्या है कि
I think Gopalji's network had just gone. Uh, just wait for a minute, guys. Wait him to come back. Yeah, he came back. Yes, Gopalji, please continue.
sorry, it was disconnected. So what happens is, should I continue, Amit?
Yeah, please continue, sir. Please continue.
So what happens basically is that इस 30 रुपए को तो रेरा का कोई कंट्रोल नहीं होता, वो अपना इस पैसा को यूज कर सकती है जिस तरीका से भी वो चाहे। बट रिमेनिंग जो 70% पैसा है, उसको जब आप अपने अकाउंट से निकाल के विड्रॉ करते हैं या यूज करते हैं, देन यू नीड द अप्रूवल ऑफ 3%, which is specified as that the withdrawal from 70% account or the RERA account is for three purposes. First, with the approval of 3%. First, it needs the architect certificate. Architect का approval होना चाहिए, आर्किटेक्ट का सर्टिफिकेट होना चाहिए, सेकंड इंजीनियर का सर्टिफिकेट होना चाहिए, और तीसरा चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट का सर्टिफिकेट होना चाहिए। सो एनी अमाउंट विच अलॉटी का पैसा प्रोमोटर के पास आता है, उस पैसा को यूज करने के लिए भी रेरा ने गाइडलाइन दिया है, और उस पैसा को निकालने के लिए भी आपको 3 प्रोफेशनल्स का हेल्प लगता है। सो व्हाट रेरा इज ट्राइंग टू डू इज, रेरा इज ट्राइंग टू क्रिएट ओनरशिप इन द प्रोमोटर, एंड इट इज ऑल्सो ट्राइंग टू क्रिएट कि जो पैसा निकल रहा है वो एक प्रोफेशनल के चेक पॉइंट से निकले। We chartered accountants have a lot of scope over here. आज के दिन में if we talk of, if we have an understanding कि आज के दिन में almost we have say हीरा और रेरा को मिला के almost 5,000 प्रोजेक्ट्स, ना तो 4500 4,500 प्रोजेक्ट इन द स्टेट ऑफ वेस्ट बंगाल आज हमारे पास है। 4500 प्रोजेक्ट में चलिए मान लेते हैं 1,500 से 2,000 प्रोजेक्ट ऐसे होंगे जो कंप्लीटेड होंगे या थोड़े डिलेड होंगे, पर 2-2,500 रनिंग प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं। एंड एवरी वन ऑफ देम, which majority of projects are not doing, I must say, is that they are not taking the withdrawal certificate and amount is withdrawn like this. ये हमारे लिए एक बिग स्कोप है, बिकॉज दिस विड्रॉल फ्रॉम द अकाउंट कैन नॉट हैपन unless otherwise it is approved by a chartered accountant. There's huge scope for we professionals to involve ourselves in the RERA consultancies, RERA compliances, all these things. So this is what happens. अब क्या है कि पैसा निकाल के आप प्रोजेक्ट को बनाते हैं, प्रोजेक्ट को डेवलप करते हैं। पहले क्या होता था, अब जब प्रोजेक्ट बन रहा है, पहले प्रोजेक्ट डिलेड होते थे और बायर और अलॉटी के बीच में एक ट्रांसपेरेंसी नहीं रहती थी कभी भी। जनरली आप पहले के हीरो और रेरा के एग्रीमेंट्स को देखेंगे तो क्या दिखता था कि अगर कोई प्रमोटर से डिले होता है, या प्रमोटर प्रोजेक्ट को डिले करता है, या प्रमोटर से कोई गलती होती है, तो प्रमोटर एक सर्टन रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट आपको देता है, 4%, 5%, 6%, ऐसे हुआ करता था। और अगर अलॉटी कुछ डिले करता है, अलॉटी से डिले होता है, तो अलॉटी को उसके अगेंस्ट में एक सब्सटैंशियल 14%, 16%, 18% इंटरेस्ट देना पड़ेगा। अब रेरा एक्ट आने के बाद ऐसा नहीं है साहब। रेरा एक्ट आने के बाद ये चीज एकदम क्लियर कर दिया गया है, जस्ट ये चीज एकदम क्लियर कर दिया गया है कि ये एकदम क्लियर कर दिया गया है कि अब आइदर प्रमोटर का डिफॉल्ट हो या अलॉटी का डिफॉल्ट हो, किसी का भी डिफॉल्ट हो, द इंटरेस्ट रेट हैव बीन फिक्स्ड एज एसबीआई पीएलआर प्लस 2%। एसबीआई पीएलआर प्लस 2% है, इसी पे कोई भी सेटलमेंट होगा, बी इट द सेटलमेंट बाय द अलॉटीज और बी इट द सेटलमेंट बाय द प्रमोटर, कुछ भी हो, आपको उसी कंडीशन में काम करना है, आपको इंटरेस्ट रेट वही देना है। अब क्या होता है, एक प्रोजेक्ट डेवलप होता है, प्रोजेक्ट डेवलप होते रहता है, कभी कभी आप ये देखेंगे कि एक प्रोजेक्ट के सैंक्शन प्लान्स को मॉडिफाई किया जाता है। तो रेरा में ये इसके लिए भी प्रोविजन है कि आप किस तरीका से अपने सैंक्शन प्लान को मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं। तो रेरा बोलता है कि फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ मॉडिफिकेशन ऑफ सैंक्शन प्लान, अगेन आई हैव टू गो बैक हाउ दे ट्राई टू ब्रॉट इन ए ट्रांसपेरेंसी। इट सेज कि अगर प्रमोटर को सैंक्शन प्लान को मॉडिफाई करना है, तो दे मस्ट टेक द अप्रूवल ऑफ 2/3 ऑफ द अलॉटीज, विच वॉज नेवर देयर बिफोर। जब प्रमोटर का मन होता था तब वो प्लान को रिवाइज करता था, जब प्रमोटर का मन होता था, जब वो जो करना था वो करता था। बट नाउ पोस्ट रेरा कमिंग इनटू द पिक्चर, व्हाट हैज हैपेंड इज दैट दे इट इज वेरी क्लियर कि आप अगर सैंक्शन प्लान को रिवाइज करना चाहते हैं, यू नीड टू टेक 2/3 अलॉटीज का अप्रूवल, दैट इज प्रायर अप्रूवल, और उसके बाद ही आप सैंक्शन प्लान को मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं। इसके पहले ऐसा नहीं हुआ करता था। नेक्स्ट, कभी कभी हम लोग देखते हैं कि देयर आर चेंज ऑफ प्रोमोटर्स ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट। कभी कभी प्रोमोटर्स, कभी कभी जब प्रोजेक्ट डिले हो जाते हैं, और प्रोजेक्ट डिले होने के कारण कभी कभी फाइनेंशियल कंडीशन ऑफ द प्रोमोटर ठीक नहीं रहता है, तो प्रोजेक्ट हैज बीन ट्रांसफर फ्रॉम वन प्रोमोटर टू द अदर प्रोमोटर। अब इस केस में भी क्या होता है, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंटली, अब जब भी आप प्रोमोटर को ट्रांसफर करते हैं फ्रॉम वन पर्सन टू द अदर पर्सन, आप प्रोमोटर को ट्रांसफर करते हैं, तो अब रेरा बोलता है कि इसके लिए भी आपको प्रायर अप्रूवल लेना चाहिए 2/3 अलॉटीज का। और टू थर्ड अलॉटीज का अप्रूवल लेने के बाद सेकंड, इस केस में तो और एक कंडीशन पुटअप करता है, और क्या पुटअप करता है कि भाई अलॉटीज का अप्रूवल तो लेना ही लेना है, एंड अलॉटीज का अप्रूवल के साथ साथ आपको एक और अप्रूवल लेना है रेरा अथॉरिटी का। जब आप किसी भी प्रमोटर को प्रोजेक्ट ट्रांसफर करते हैं तो द इट शुड बी दैट द promoter is required the approval of two-third allottees of the project and prior approval of RERA authority, कि भाई रेरा अथॉरिटी को बताएगा कि मैं अपने प्रोजेक्ट को फलाना फलाना बंदे को ट्रांसफर कर रहा हूं, और रेरा अथॉरिटी अगर सेटिस्फाइड है तो उसका अप्रूवल देगी। अगर रेरा अथॉरिटी सेटिस्फाइड नहीं है तो वो उसका अप्रूवल नहीं देगी। इस तरीका से हम लोग प्रोजेक्ट को मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं, एक्सटेंशंस को डाल सकते कर सकते हैं। अब कभी कभी क्या होता है, देयर आर जेन्युइन रीजन, जैसे कुछ समय मैं हीरा प्रोजेक्ट के लिए बोलता हूँ, हुआ क्या था कि हीरा प्रोजेक्ट जब हो रहे थे तो जो प्रोजेक्ट कोविड टाइम में थे वो प्रोजेक्ट अपने स्पेसिफाइड डेडलाइंस पे कंप्लीट नहीं हो पाए। तो रेरा में ये भी प्रोविजन है कि आप जो कंप्लीशन डेट देते हैं कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट का, उस कंप्लीशन डेट को आप मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं, दैट द कंप्लीशन डेट ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट कैन बी मॉडिफाइड। इसको हम लोग रेरा के टर्म्स में बोलते हैं एक्सटेंशन ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट। So extension of the project can be done under RERA as per the provisions of section 6 and rule 7, which categorically says कि अगर promoter अपने प्रोजेक्ट का एक्सटेंशन कराना चाहता है तो वो एक्सटेंशन जो है वो उनको मिल सकता है, और एक्सटेंशन के लिए देयर आर रिक्वायरमेंट्स, डिटेल विच नीड टू प्रोवाइड, कि ये डिटेल्स हैं फॉर द एक्सटेंशन ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट अलॉन्ग विद द फीस विच इज डबल ऑफ द रजिस्ट्रेशन फी। जो हमने 10 रुपया, 20 रुपया, 50 रुपया और 100 रुपया बात किया था, वो अब हो जाता है 20 रुपया, 40 रुपया, 100 रुपया और 200 रुपया। इस फीस पेमेंट करने के साथ आप अपने प्रोजेक्ट को एक्सटेंड करवा सकते हैं, और एक्सटेंड करके अपने प्रोजेक्ट को कंप्लीट कर सकते हैं। रेरा में अब क्या है कि आप प्रोजेक्ट बना रहे, प्रोजेक्ट को एडवर्टीजमेंट करके आपने बनाया, पैसा आया, पैसा बनाने के बाद आपने कंप्लीट किया, और कंप्लीट करने के बाद आप उसको हैंड ओवर करते हैं। इस प्रोसेस में जो आप अलॉटीज के साथ एग्रीमेंट को एंटर करते हैं, रेरा बोलता है कि आपको उस एग्रीमेंट का फॉर्मेट भी हमने प्रोवाइड किया है। सो देयर इज ए स्टैंडर्ड फॉर्मेट विच हैव बीन प्रोवाइडेड बाय द रेरा for agreement for sale. Why they have provided this? Because what used to happen before was that agreement हर प्रमोटर इतना बड़ा बनाता था, इतने टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन के साथ बनाता था कि एक नॉर्मल बायर के लिए वो पॉसिबल नहीं होता है कि उस एग्रीमेंट को समझे, उस एग्रीमेंट को पढ़े, और उस एग्रीमेंट को पढ़ने के बाद उस एग्रीमेंट के बारे को पूरा समझ के साइन करे। तो रेरा ने बोला नहीं, हमको ट्रांसपेरेंसी लानी है, हमने एक स्टैंडर्ड फॉर्मेट दिया, बायर को अवेयर है, बायर के कंसिडरेशंस को देखते हुए दिया है। अब यही चीज, इसी बेसिस पर हम लोग एग्रीमेंट करेंगे, एंड द स्टैंडर्ड फॉर्मेट ऑफ द एग्रीमेंट should be followed by the RERA, should be followed by all the promoters. Just a second. If we now look some of our PPTs which you have made, so the RERA has tried to the intent of the bringing of the RERA in the state and in the entire country, as stated by the Honorable Prime Minister, was that it tried to bring in trust between the customers and the developers. The genesis of RERA we have discussed. So now, if we take an example, there are almost in the country, there are almost 1,30,000 projects which are registered under RERA. There are 89,000 real estate agents who are registered throughout the country. There are complaints. So there are complaints also which can be filed. So it says RERA also gives a mechanism that if there is a allottee who is aggrieved by any of the actions of the promoter, he can she can file a complaint with the RERA authority. रेरा अथॉरिटी हियर्स दोस कंप्लेन, और उस कंप्लेन को सुनने के बाद वो अपना डिसीजन देती है एज पर द प्रोविजंस ऑफ रेरा एक्ट। सो रेरा इज ऑल्सो डिस्प्यूट रिजॉल्विंग मैकेनिज्म, डिस्प्यूट सेटलमेंट मैकेनिज्म भी रेरा में प्रोवाइड होता है। द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ रेरा इन द स्टेट ऑफ वेस्ट बंगाल वी हैव डिस्कस्ड। The current status as on 15/7/2025, this is the status of our state. We have in RERA regime 3,163 project registered. We have 870 RERA registered agent. If we take the registrations as valid under HERA regime, we had 1288 HERA regime projects which are there consolidated. If we take both HERA and RERA, it is approximately 4,300 projects which are registered, approximately 1,500, approximately 14 to 1,500 projects, agents which are registered, and there are in the state currently there are almost 1,500 complaints, out of might be 20-30% complaints have been disposed of, but Almost 1,500 complaints have been filed till now with the RERA authorities, which have been adjudicated at the RERA authorities and various with the RERA tribunals in the state of West Bengal. This RERA authority consists of basically three persons. First is the chairman of the authority, and then there are two members. In our state, the current chairman is Mr. Jayanto Kumar Basu. He is the chairperson of the RERA, being assisted by two members, Tapas Mukhopadhyay ji and Bholana Das ji. We discussed the applicability of RERA in the state of West Bengal. But the reason I'm taking through all the PPT is we are almost like it is a 50-60 minute seminar. So I'm trying to just give a glimpse of everything in addition to the discussions we have made. And then maybe for 5-10 minutes, we can take the questions if anyone has it. Now, this we have discussed applicability of real estate agents. So agents we have not discussed. All the agents who are there in the state of West Bengal are required to register themselves. If they are dealing with the real estate, they are to register themselves with the state, with the RERA authorities. The fees for RERA registration for the agents are, for individual it is 25,000. For for person other than individual, it is 2,50,000, valid for 5 years. Then renewal at the fees 5,000 for individuals, 50,000 for non-individuals. The documents of the registration we have discussed. Then section 13 I have discussed with you is the 10% of the amount. Section 14 we have discussed with regard to alteration of the sanction plan. Section 15 we have discussed interest of the promoters we have discussed. Now, the one more important thing which I should brief you is that what happened or what was happening before the RERA came into the picture or the real estate regulatory came into the picture, that the apartments were sold on the basis of super built up area. सो होता क्या था कि आप एक अपार्टमेंट ले रहे हैं जो कि एक्चुअली आप यूज करें 1200 स्क्वायर फीट ऑफ कारपेट एरिया, बट यू आर पेइंग फॉर से 1600. पहले प्राइसेस लिखे रहते थे 1600 पे. सो दिस वो दिखता था कम कि अगर मैंने 1 करोड़ का फ्लैट लिया है और 2000 स्क्वायर फीट सुपर बिल्डअप एरिया तो 5000 का रेट होता था. बट इफेक्टिवली होता क्या था कि वो 2000 स्क्वायर फीट की जगह आपको 1500 स्क्वायर फीट ही मिलता था. सो आपका रेट अप्रोक्सीमेटली 7000 रुपये हो जाता था. सो देयर वाज अगेन लैक ऑफ ट्रांसपेरेंसी कि भाई एक्चुअल प्राइस जो एक्चुअल एरिया में यूज कर रहा हूं उसका कितना है. सब रेरा बोलता है कि द प्राइस ऑफ द अपार्टमेंट शुड बी मेंशन इन द कारपेट एरिया सो दैट द अलॉटी द बायर्स आर स्पेसिफिकली अवेयर अबाउट कि भाई जो एरिया वो यूज करना चाहते हैं वो एरिया का क्या रेट है. पोजीशन बाय द अलॉटीज. रेरा हैज स्पेसिफिक गाइडलाइन कि आपको किस तरीका से पोजीशन देना है टू द अलॉटीज. रेरा में ये बताया गया दो चीज का ध्यान रखना है कि अलॉटीज को फ्लैट का पोजीशन आप तभी दे सकते हैं जब बिल्डिंग हैबिटेबल कंडीशन में है एंड सेकंड ओसी और सीसी रिसीव हो चुकी, उसके बाद ही आप बिल्डिंग का हैंडओवर किसी अलॉटी को दे सकते हैं. पहले क्या होता था, लोग फिट आउट बोल के कंसेप्ट चलता था कि आप पहले फिट आउट के लिए दे देते थे, ऑल्दो बिल्डिंग हैज रिसीव सीसी और नॉट, फिट आउट के लिए दे देते हैं. बट विद रेरा कमिंग इनटू पिक्चर अ बिल्डिंग कैन बी हैंडेड ओवर ओनली एंड ओनली व्हेन it has received CC from the competent authority and it is in habitable condition. There are clauses कि there are times when there were cancellation of the project. अगर हम पहले देखते हैं कि एक अलॉटी अगर प्रोजेक्ट को कैंसिल करता था पहले, there were a lot of fines and penalties which were being put on the allotee. But now the RERA has made it very simple. It has said कि if there's a allotee, if a allotee cancels the project because of no fault of the promoter, then two things promoter can charge him is the booking amount which he has been charged by the promoter, and second is the interest if there is overdue. This two amount can be deducted from the amount so paid by the allottees, and remaining amount need to be remitted back to the allottee within 45 days. In case promoter cancels the project, in case because of the promoter can cancel only in case of default, and if there is a default on the part of allotee, in that case cancellation can be done, and cancellation has to be done by deducting the total amount, the booking amount, I'm sorry, the booking amount plus the interest which is there outstanding. This to after post deduction, they is to refund the amount. It says, RERA Act says that post completion of the projects under RERA, when the project is completed, it is the promoters would enable the formation of the association so that the building is maintained in a proper way, and the buildings are maintained by the people who are actually the owners. जो owners है उनके तरफ से ये maintain किया जाए. There's a clause under RERA which says defect liability. Defect liability में it is कि a promoter is responsible for the structural defect or defect in workmanship of a project for 5 years. तो 5 ईयर का पीरियड देता है कि अगर 5 ईयर के अंदर बिल्डिंग में कोई भी स्ट्रक्चरल डिफेक्ट आता है या स्ट्रक्चरल डिफेक्ट के साथ साथ अगर बिल्डिंग में कोई वर्कमैनशिप का प्रॉब्लम है, then promoter is required to rectify those mistakes within a period of 30 days from the intimation by the allottee. And if he does not do so, he is liable for compensation to the allottees. And allottees can reach out to the RERA authorities for the compensation. Extensions under RERA we have discussed. Compliances. So what has happened is in जैसे अपना income tax GST में compliances है. So in case of RERA we have compliance that every quarter every project need to submit the construction status of the project along with images कि construction का status क्या है, इसको आपको images के साथ submit करना पड़ता है under RERA. It is also submitted online. We say it is a quarterly statement which need to be submitted to the RERA authorities, and along with this you need to submit the booking details कि आपने कितने अपार्टमेंट्स बुक हुए, कितने कार पार्किंग आपने बेचे, ये भी आपको मेंशन करना जरूरी है under the RERA for a quarterly compliance. There is an annual compliance which says that the auditor has to report that the money so withdrawn under 70% accounts has been utilized for that particular project and the withdrawn has been in compliance. So this is a part of the important audit report which auditor need to certify. Filing of complaint if there is an allottee who is an aggrieved, or if there's any aggrieved person, maybe a promoter aggrieved against the allottee or allottee aggrieved against the promoter, can file a complaint to the RERA authority in Form M under Section 31 by paying a fees of 1,000 rupees, and the complaints are heard of. There are various fines and penalties which have been specified under the RERA Act, which is applicable to the defaulting promoters or any stakeholders like agents or allottees who are defaulting under the RERA. We chartered accountants have right to representation. Under RERA, we are allowed to represent before the authority level as well as before the tribunal level. The RERA tribunal, जहाँ हम represent कर सकते हैं with regard to the RERA matters in the state of West Bengal. In our state of West Bengal, the RERA office is one now. It is in the Ajay Nagar, somewhere near to Ruby. From that place only, all the operations of RERA are maintained in the state of West Bengal. So this has been like we are on almost 550. These are the basic introduction of a brief understanding of the RERA Act, which is there in the state of West Bengal, which is continuing in the state of West Bengal. Now, Amit, if you allow, I think so 10 minutes we should keep for questions, if it is okay.
Yeah, sure. We can take the questions from the participants if any. Participants, the house is open for the question. You can write it in the question box or raise your hand. I can allow you to talk either way. Meanwhile, Gopal, I have a personal query, like going back to the auditor's disclosure, it is required in the audit report. What was the exact disclosure that we need to get in case of infra company?
So, in case of a real estate company, if you are the statutory auditor of a real estate company, then under Section 42LD, what is required is you specify or you need to report that the amounts were withdrawn by the promoter of the project, है ना, जो अमाउंट आपने 70% अकाउंट से विड्रॉ किया है, that is in compliance with the RERA requirements and the amounts so withdrawn has been utilized for the purpose of that project. These two certifications need to be specified under RERA.
And that need to be submitted to the RERA authority by the.
That need to be submitted to the RERA authority. The deadline for this is 6 months from the end of the financial year.
Okay, great. So we have a question over here from Amrita Chattopadhyay. What are the various certificates which are required from CA?
Generally, there are two certificates, Amrita, which is required under the RERA. First is the certificate for withdrawal of fund. There's a RERA account which we discussed. That is a RERA account which contains 70% of the amount received from the allottees. So this certificate, this amount withdrawal certificate from RERA is the most important certificate required from the or required from a chartered accountant in practice. And the one which I was discussing with Amit was that the annual report must specify that the compliance which is required to be made by the auditor. Mainly, there is only one certificate, there is certificate of withdrawal of fund. And you asked that what is the frequency of it. So with regard to the frequency, I must tell you that as per the RERA rules, as and when you withdraw from the RERA account, you need a certificate. So whenever you are trying to withdraw any money from 70% account, you need a certificate. What happens in the practical purpose is every promoter prepares a monthly certificates or quarterly certificate, depending on the amount of withdrawal and frequency of withdrawal. And on that basis, the certificates are being prepared. So that's a very practical approach. But if you go by the specific language of the act, it says every withdrawal must be certified by architect, engineer, and chartered accountant.
Okay, and what are the consequences if the that particular company of real estate doesn't submit the certificate for
So
such withdrawals?
what happens is, Amit, the RERA is very new to the state of West Bengal. We are only 2.5 years old in context of RERA. We had an act called WB West Bengal Housing Industry Regulation Act, but now RERA is pretty new. And I must tell you, and I must tell you the entire forum, that in last 2 months, there are SOCOS notices which RERA is so started issuing, which was never done before. And the SOCOS notices contain the entire detail. The promoter need to submit all the details regarding the project sanction plan, the financial stability of the project, financial condition of the project क्या है, ये सारी चीजों को स्पेसिफाई करना पड़ता है उस SOCOS notices के पॉइंट्स को अगर अपने देखेंगे. So it is time when the government starts checking it. As of now, they have started it. As and when they check, they have a right, which we discussed, to impose fines and penalty because you are violating the provisions of RERA.
Okay. One more question is there from Amrita again. Such certificates are needed to be submitted to the bank or the RERA authority. I mean, will the bank release the amount without the certificate?
See, I tell you, it depends on bank to bank. And to be very true, RERA never says that the certificate needs to be submitted to the banks. RERA says if you are trying to withdraw money from 70% account, you need to obtain the certificate. So there are few banks. If you take an example of ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, they are the banks who require a certificate. Till the time they don't see a certificate from architect, engineer, chartered accountant, they do not release the fund. But if you go to the federal bank, they do not require the certificate. They say, we under the act are not guided to obtain the certificate. You obtain a certificate and you keep it with you. We don't need it. So if you go by the act, it has to be obtained. The obtaining the certificate is important. If the banks ask, you need to submit. If banks do not ask, you do not need to submit. But if you're withdrawing amount, I repeat once again, you need to obtain the certificate. That's a compulsory requirement of Section 4.2 LD.
We have another question from Diktam Mukherjee. How does RERA ensure that 70% of the project funds are used only for the construction?
Vikram, RERA does not do this. RERA can come to know about this only when they audit the books, but they have delegated this responsibility to three professionals. First is an architect, second an engineer, and third most importantly a chartered accountant. So once you are issuing the certificate, you need to ensure that the certificate contains a point called cost of construction, which is estimated and actual. So when you are certifying that it is a cost of construction incurred on an actual, you need to verify that whether there is a cost of construction for that project or not, for which you need to check verify bills and every other details. So it is the responsibility of basically a person who is certifying the certificate. And obviously, RERA, once they go through the certificates, when they are reviewing or auditing the projects, they can come out with their own observation.
And one more thing, Gopal, what is the consequences for an statutory auditor if he does not report anything regarding this withdrawal certificate non-compliance and he does not qualify, or can he qualify the report based on this?
See, this question, I would not be the right person regarding the qualification of the auditor report. I can tell you this, that RERA says there is a specific format for this also. We call it a Form 5. there's a Form 5 in the manner which need to be taken from a chartered accountant in practice by the promoter, and then it need to be submitted to the RERA authorities. So whether the qualifying or non-qualifying, or whether writing this in auditor's report, I should not be like, I would not be the right person. But yes, every project need to obtain that Form 5 from their statutory auditor, because it clearly says the Form 5 which have been prescribed by the authority, it clearly said it has to be obtained from the statutory auditor. So that form need to be obtained from the statutory auditor by each of the project.
Okay. Any more question from any of the participant? Okay, I think the deliberation was beautiful. So like almost all the basic query of the data and basic understanding has been taken care of. And one more question, I guess. Yeah. In JDA, with flat sharing or money sharing, how to calculate land cost while registering the project? By
It is
CA practicing.
so this on rules 5 categorically says that cost of the land is the cost at which land was acquired. There can be three modes in which a real estate project is being developed. One is the land owned by the promoter. Second, joint development agreement, area sharing. Third, joint development agreement, revenue sharing. So in case of flat sharing or money sharing, it has not been categorically specified under the RERA Act or the RERA rules. ठीक है? It clearly says, Rule 5 says that the land cost at which the cost of the land is the price at which the land is acquired by the promoter. Now, what happens is, under RERA, the developer is also a promoter, the landowner is also a promoter. So if you ask me a simpler question, if you ask me to identify specifically, I will say that the cost of the land which is there in the books of account, either of the landowner or the promoter, should be specified or should be mentioned. But in practical approach, when you come, there are other ways specified in the certificate on which withdrawal of funds is or can be allowed, which is basically called cost of acquiring development right.
Okay. Any more question from anyone? Okay. With this, I thank you all the attendee of the Golden Charcha for this technical session on data in West Bengal, and of course a very special thank you to our speakers, CA Gopal Lodha. Your comprehensive overview of the complexity and surrounding about the concept of data in West Bengal has been clarified and well explained. Thank you so much, Gopal, and thank you all the attendees. And we will again join you all back on same time from 5 to 6 on Monday for the next technical session.
Thank you everyone.
So much.
Thank you, Amit.